Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. I am your host, Nick. Today you're listening to episode 89 of Talking Blue, where today we're going to recap the Dodgers and the Rangers series that just wrapped up about an hour ago. Dodgers take 2 out of 3 from the Rangers, so they continue to play well, win series, and have played pretty well to start the season. I believe they have a record of 11-4 now. But it's very similar to the Blue Jay series. Win the first 2, unable to finish off the sweep in the series finale. But as they always say, if you can pile up winning series, if you can continue to win series throughout the year, you're always going to end up with a good record, and the sweeps will come. The Dodgers have been playing pretty well, and I got a ton of numbers and things to get into from this series and with the Dodgers overall. So before we do any of that, as always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcast, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of the new videos dropping. You can follow us on all social media at Talkin' Blue Pod. That is TikTok, that is Instagram, and that is X. You can also follow myself at Nick Talking Ball on X. I tweet all about the Dodgers. I tweet all about a bunch of baseball stuff as well. If you would like a new baseball podcast, I have a brand new baseball podcast called Baseball Mondays. It's a weekly baseball show where I recap what happened the following week, and it takes place every Monday. Episode 4 will be coming out tomorrow on Monday, April the 13th. So, before we get into the series, the Dodgers and the Rangers, before we get into the recap, just some quick injury updates. There aren't really any new ones. Dave Roberts did tell reporters over the weekend that of the injured relievers, Brock Stewart is the closest one to be returning. He is nearing a rehab assignment, so probably we'll see Brock Stewart in the next 2 weeks or so. Then after that, Mookie Betts, one of the injuries that came out. I told you guys when he suffered that oblique injury a week ago in Washington. I told you that in about a week or so we would get some kind of update that would let us know like where things are at. They're saying that he is symptom-free, which I don't know if that technically means pain-free. I don't know if that's a fancy word for pain-free. Obviously, I know what symptom-free means. So basically what we can assume is that is a good update. Now that he hasn't resumed swinging a bat or anything like that, he is participating in defensive drills. There is no timeline, but as far as we know, it doesn't seem like he's like in any pain or anything like that. So I guess that's a good thing. But of course, with obliques, you never know. So the next update we probably will get again in a week or so. Will be how he's feeling and where we can kind of progress from here. Blake Snell pitched a 15 pitch simulated inning on April 11th. He's expected to reach a 4-inning workload before a rehab assignment. So again, probably in a couple weeks he will begin to go on a rehab assignment, and then he can kind of ramp up to get back sometime in late May. And that's pretty much all the injury updates. Dodgers haven't had really any new ones, and all the other guys that are expected to return at some point aren't really close enough. So now let's get to the games. Let's get to Friday night's game, which took place, Game 1 in L.A. Tyler Glasnow taking on Kumar Rocker of the Texas Rangers. This was a pretty fun game. So scoring gets underway in the bottom of the second. A Max Muncy home run, his second of the year to right field. He hit a few home runs in this game, as you may know. Dodgers go up 1-0. In the third inning, one of the few mistakes that Tyler Glasnow made, but it was a big one. A 3-run homer to old friend Corey Seager, his 4th home run of the year. Texas Rangers jump on top of the Dodgers 3-1. Later in the 4th inning, Max Muncy hits his 2nd home run of the game, his 3rd of the year. Home run to left center field, a solo shot to make it 3-2 Rangers. In the 5th inning, a Wyatt Langford home run to left field. This was also off of Tyler Glasnow. So it is now 4-2 Rangers. Later in the bottom of the 5th, a sac fly from Hae-Sung Kim gets the Dodgers within a run. It's 4-3. Then in the bottom of the 6th, a double from Andy Pages. This put the Dodgers ahead, so they go up 5-4. Later on in the 8th inning, Andy Pages continues his really hot start to this season. He hits his 4th home run of the year, a little bit of insurance for the Dodgers. They go up 7-4. But in the top of the ninth inning, Edwin Diaz comes on to try to nail down the save. Evan Carter takes him deep to right field to make it a one-run game. It's now 7-6. Then, after a walk and a stolen base, Ezekiel Duran singles into left field and ties the game. So a blown save for Edwin Diaz, his first of the year, and we'll get to that. It is now 7-7 game. We go to the bottom of the ninth inning. Of course, Max Muncy's due up third after the first two hitters of that inning get out. Max Muncy comes up on an 0-2 count, gets a slider, hanging slider right down the middle, and parks it into the right center field bleachers to hit his third home run of the game and walk it off for the Dodgers. A final score of 8-7. First walk-off home run of the win for the Dodgers this year. Tyler Glasnow pitched 6 innings, Alex Vesia for 1, Tanner Scott for 1, and then Edwin Diaz pitched 1. Like I said, it was the blown save. He also gets the win because he blew the save in the ninth, and then the Dodgers were able to walk it off, so he technically gets the win in the game. So let's get to Tyler Glasnow first before we get to Edwin Diaz and Max Muncy. Tyler Glasnow's final line in this game: 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. He did allow 2 home runs in the game. Now, Glasnow had 17 whiffs in the game. So, if you remember the last time we talked about Tyler Glasnow after his start against the Nationals, he'd gotten off to a great start to start the year, to start 2026. The only thing he really hadn't been doing was getting a lot of swings and misses throughout his first couple starts. He had a couple starts where he had like 8, 9, 10 whiffs in a game, which is usually not like Tyler Glasnow. You can definitely pitch and be successful getting that amount of whiffs, but normally Glasnow is a guy who gets a ton of whiffs, and he's usually in the neighborhood of, anywhere from like 15 to 20, basically. 17 in this game is very good number, and what I also like to see from Glasnow is he brought the slider more into the fold, where he's been really leaning heavy on the four-seamer, the sinker, and especially his curveball this year, which with good reason because it's a very good curveball. But I've always really liked his slider, especially, it's a pretty good pitch for him to use against left-handed hitters. He got 7 whiffs on that pitch in this game, 58% whiff rate, so that's very good. So I do like that. I just feel like when he incorporates the slider, it makes him a more complete pitcher where he's not really just fastball, curveball. He is able to mix in the slider, and it just gives him another look. And it is a legitimately good pitch. It's not just like, throw a fourth pitch because, you want to keep the hitters off balance. Nothing like that. Now, he did allow the 4 earned runs, but I think he still pitched pretty good. I mean, again, anytime you kind of allow 4 earned runs, it's not generally a great start, but he was able to get through 6 innings pitched, and he didn't give up a ton of hits in this game. He really just made 2 mistakes. The 1 home run to Corey Seager was just a heater right down the middle. But like I said, he found the whiffs in this game, which is great. Increased the slider usage, which led to 7 of those 17 whiffs. If you take a look at some of his expected numbers, he has an ERA of 4 even, which is like, actually nowadays is not that bad. I think you could still be an above league average pitcher if your ERA is 4. But if you look at his expected ERA, it's an expected 2.55 ERA. So a little bit of unluckiness, and a lot of the underlying metrics, and really just a lot of the metrics overall, say that Tyler Glasnow has pitched very well so far this year. In 18 innings pitched, he's got 22 strikeouts, a whip of .94. Like I said, the ERA of 4. The velocity's been good for Glasnow early on. Obviously, the curveball's been really effective. I like I've said multiple times, I like that he brought the slider for this start, because in the first couple starts it was kind of noticeable to me that he was not really using his slider at all and didn't really have a feel for that pitch. Throughout this start, he definitely did. If he just doesn't make a mistake to Seager, you're probably looking at more of a 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts. So overall, I like where Glasnow's at. The one thing that he still needs to figure out is that his four-seam fastball has been getting hit, a 381 batting average. I think the expected batting average is a little bit lower, but it's still over 300. So he's got a 381 batting average on the four-seam fastball, expected 329. So the fastball has still been getting hit hard, but all the other pitches have been great for Glasnow. His sinker has a batting average of 0.71, 16% whiff rate. So his fastballs right now are not getting a ton of whiffs. The whiffs are coming from the 2 breaking balls. The curveball, 154 batting average against with a 46.2% whiff rate. That's very good. And then the slider actually has a 0 batting average against. He hasn't given up a hit on that pitch with a 45% whiff rate. So the breaking balls, the breaking pitches have been great for Glasnow, leading to a lot of whiffs. Once he gets that forcing fastball in a little bit of a better spot, giving up a little less just hits on and slug on that pitch, because he's got a 667 slugging percentage on that fastball right now. Once he can, get that figured out, which I believe he will, because he's such a big guy who has great stuff, great extension, that I just don't see his fastball getting hit all season long. It might not be a pitch that gets a ton of whiffs, but not, I don't think it's a pitch that's going to continue to get hammered. But either way, I think that Glasnow has been great to start the season. I think after this next start that he'll have, which will be next weekend. I don't know who the Dodgers play next weekend after the Mets. His numbers will look a lot better, and I like where he's at so far, no doubt. Going pretty deep into games, and like I said, he figured out the whiffs in this game, and he's been off to a good start. Edwin Diaz, not much to say. First blown save. If you watch that ninth inning, Evan Carter just kind of jumped him for a first pitch homer, snuck it out to right field. And then he gave up a walk, and then again, Ezekiel Duran just, kind of blooped in a single to left field. So I think Diaz has been fine. He actually hasn't gotten like a ton of save opportunities, because when the Dodgers have won so far, they've won by they've won not a lot of blowout games, but he hasn't had a ton of save opportunities. The velocity has been a tad bit down for Edwin Diaz, but when you watch him, it's still 95 to 97. The slider's been really good. He has been getting strikeouts. The ERA is really bad right now, but it's just still too small of a sample size to be worried about anything. I actually think Diaz has been fine. Probably has to get his command a little bit better, because when you're a closer, obviously, when you can get away with allowing walks because he's a strikeout pitcher, but when you allow walks and you're trying to nail down a save, it just takes one swing. It doesn't even have to be a big homer to create chaos. So that's pretty much it from Diaz. I think he'll be fine, but it's still very early in the season, and obviously relievers have the least amount of time to work with. They have they're the most limited because they only pitch once every couple days. So that's pretty much it. I wanted to talk about Muncy before we get to game 2, and first of all, what a sick game for Muncy. He had 4 hits in the game, 4 for 5, 3 home runs, which I think is the second of his career, and a walk-off to hit the 3rd home run. That is pretty sick. I mean, it's pretty funny how stuff works out sometimes, because I can remember going into this game, I think Muncy's OPS was in the 600s. It might have been a little higher than that. But by no means did I think like Muncy was struggling. And Dave Roberts they said this on the broadcast, that Dave Roberts said, Muncy is mentally in such a great spot in his career where, the numbers necessarily hadn't been there the first, before this game pretty much. And but he said to Dave Roberts, like, I know my swing's in a good spot. I feel really good. Like, I know that I'm going to be fine, basically. And it just shows, like, Muncy has been doing this for a long time now, and he's really deserved a lot of the respect where, if you guys remember 2025, he got off to a horrific start, and it was much longer than this year, where he didn't even get off to a bad start this year. But, like I said, before this 3-homer game, his numbers weren't that great. He got off to a horrible start for like basically the first month of last year. And up until he started to play better that first month, there was starting to be some loud noise about like, where are we going to go with Max Muncy from here? And it just shows like he proved to us last year, like not only did he get off to a bad start and then, he played better, he played amazing. Now he definitely got injured a couple times and wasn't able to play a full season. But once he turned it on, by the time May came around, he was incredible pretty much every time that he was out there, even though it was limited with some of the injuries. And, even though he didn't get off to the best start the first couple weeks this year, it just shows that he's in a great spot mentally, that it didn't really bug him. And I just wanted to give some of his numbers. This was going into Sunday's game, so I'm sure these numbers have changed a little bit. But he's got the 10th best slugging expected. He's got the 10th best expected slugging percentage in Major League Baseball at .616. The 11th best expected WOBA at .427. The 11th best hard hit percentage at 56.7. He's got an .899 OPS to start the year. And another interesting thing about Muncy, he has the 5th best OPS when it comes to left on left. So the 5th best OPS for a left-handed hitter against left-handed pitching. Never really been a calling card for Muncy. I do believe in the past he's had decent slugging numbers against lefties, but never really great contact numbers. And I don't think this will continue. I do believe that, when the season's all said and done, he'll have better numbers against right-handed pitching. But in if you guys remember, what was one of the spring training biggest narratives this year? It was Santiago Espinal, who played amazing in spring training and ended up earning a roster spot. He was supposed to be a guy who gets starts against left-handed pitching to get Muncy off his feet a little bit. He has barely played this year, and it's because Muncy's had really great at-bats against lefties. So that's really great to see. 5th best OPS when it comes to left-handed hitters versus left-handed pitching, a 1231 OPS versus lefties for Muncy. And he's also surprisingly has graded out as a great defensive third baseman. So he is 11th in fielding run value among third basemen, 5th among outs above average, and 8th in defensive run saved. So the defensive metrics say that Muncy's been pretty good this year to start 2026. It's still very early. All it would take is one bad defensive game, 2 errors, and he would drop down. So I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but watching him on TV, he has made some nice plays and has made most of the routine plays. And that's all you need from Muncy. If you could be a league average, if Muncy could be a league average defender, he would be one of the more valuable players at third base, maybe the most valuable because of what his bat is. With some of the players that have dropped off at third base used to be one of the stronger positions a couple years ago. But since guys like Machado, Arenado, Austin Riley, like some of those guys, their production has dropped off a little bit, even like Alex Bregman. Really, the only guy who sustained greatness at that position is Jose Ramirez, and Muncy out-hits all those guys except for Jose Ramirez. But obviously, he doesn't play the defense that some of those guys do, so you don't really think of him as one of the best third basemen in the game. If he could play league average defense and hit like he always will, he is pretty much the second best third baseman in the game. So just wanted to give Muncy his due. I love that he turned it on, and an OPS now in the high 800s. That's great, and I've always felt great about Muncy, and absolutely wasn't panicked about him or anything like that. And yeah, so let's go ahead and go to Game 2. We spent a lot of time on Game 1, but rightly so. It was a fun game. Game 2, a couple of young right-handers. Emmett Sheehan taking on Jack Leiter of the Texas Rangers, the former first-round draft pick out of Vanderbilt. So let's go ahead and talk about that game. The Rangers got on the board right away. I think this was the second pitch of the game. Brandon Nimmo, who was crazy in this game and did a lot of great things offensively in the series, he homers to dead center off of Emmett Sheehan. So right away you're thinking, here we go again with Emmett Sheehan, who's definitely had the most struggles for the Dodgers so far to start this season. Even with Roki Sasaki's struggles, Emmett Sheehan has actually been kind of worse than him. But Sheehan would actually pitch pretty solid in this game. Dodgers would tie it up right away in the bottom of the first. A solo home run from Shohei Ohtani, his 4th of the year, to make it 1-1. Later in that inning, a 3-run shot from Teoscar Hernandez to make it 4-1. He's starting to heat up and play really good. His 3rd home run of the year. The Dodgers would tally on a couple more runs in the 3rd inning. Teoscar grounded into a double play with the bases loaded. Makes it 5-1 Dodgers. Rangers would get back in it, though. Another home run from Brandon Nimmo, a 2-run shot to make it 5-3, so a little bit of a ball game now. But in the 8th inning, some insurance thanks to Andy Pajes once again. He makes it 6-3. The Dodgers would hang on and win by a score of 6-3. So the Dodgers would take the series, win the first 2 games. Emmett Sheehan pitches 6 innings, Jack Dreyer for 1, Tanner Scott for 1, Blake Trinan for 2/3 of an inning in the 9th inning. He came on for the save opportunity instead of Edwin Diaz, and then actually Vesia came in and got the final out, so he gets the save. He pitches 1/3 of an inning, and the Dodgers get their 11th win of the season by a score of 6-3. So let's talk about Emmett Sheehan, who actually pitched pretty solid in this game and there was much more positive things to talk about. So 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 earned runs. Like I said, all came of the home runs from Brandon Nimmo. 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Positives for Emmett Sheehan. Much like Tyler Glasnow, he found the whiffs in this game. Another thing that he wasn't doing. Sheehan was pitching horribly, honestly, so there wasn't really many great things he was doing. The command was bad. The velocity was bad. No swings and misses. He looked much more like himself in this start. The whiffs were there, 16 whiffs. That is much more in line with what Emmett Sheehan will get. The slider was absolutely filthy in this game, and that is something that is very encouraging to see because he hasn't had a feel for that pitch to start the year. 11 whiffs. 11 of his 16 whiffs were on the slider. And maybe the biggest positive was that his velocity went back to what it normally is. So his velocity on the year was 93.9. In this game, he was averaging 95.2. That's much more in line with what he was averaging last year, where I think he averaged 95.6. And if you watch this game, it was pretty much 95 to 96. I think he even hit 97, 98. So that is much more in line with what his fastball velocity is at. Now, his fastball is still getting crushed, and that is something that he's going to have to figure out. Just like Tyler Glasnow, but Sheehan is getting his fastball is a 500 batting average against. So it's getting absolutely roasted. But like I said, the command was much better. He only had the one walk, was able to get through 6 innings. And like I said, the most encouraging thing, the whiffs and the fastball velocity, averaging mid-90s again, able to, figuring out to get whiffs. Because if you look at a lot of numbers last year, even in his limited sample size, I don't even think Sheehan threw 100 innings. He was one of the best swing and miss pitchers in the game. He was in like the 93rd percentile in whiffs and over 90 percentile in Ks. So that was, those are positives for Sheehan. He's got his whiff percentage now up to 31.1, which is pretty good. A lot of the other metrics still aren't great. He does get some decent chase. And like I said, some of the numbers on his breaking balls are really good. 143 batting average against on his slider, 222 on the changeup. He even brought in the curveball into this start, 0 batting average against on that pitch this year. This start definitely makes me feel much better about Emmett Sheehan because previously, with the velocity dropping, with the bad just overall command and bad results, it was definitely making me feel like, I hope this isn't something. He was able to get the velo back up, the swing and miss stuff back up, pitch pretty deep into the game, look much more like himself. It makes me feel really good that his next start we'll see some, continue to see some good things. And I think that it's going to take him a while to get his ERA and get some of his numbers down because he did have some really stinker starts. But it's still very early, and we could very quickly forget about a couple of those bad starts for Sheehan, and still a ton of time to have a really good season like we expected. So this was a great start. This made me feel really good about Sheehan. Now, I wanted to talk about 3 relievers. Tanner Scott, Alex Vesia, Blake Trinan, who all were featured in this game. I just wanted to give them some credit because they have looked very good to start the season. It doesn't surprise me that Vesia has looked good because he's always been good. Scott and Trinan in particular were 2 of the guys that were going to have the most eyeballs on them in terms of the bullpen. And I told you guys prior to the season when I did some of my bullpen previews and all that stuff, Scott and Trinan to me were the 2 guys that were like the most important guys that could take this bullpen from a potentially bad bullpen or maybe just an average bullpen to actually a really good bullpen. Because you bring in Edwin Diaz, you have Alex Vesia, those are 2 guys you really trust. You add Scott and Trinan to that fold. Those are 4 very solid relievers who all have great track records. So, Tanner Scott, let's start with him. 6.2 innings pitched this year. He's got an ERA of 1.35. And what's really great about Scott so far is he's brought the strikeouts, 8 Ks, and no walks allowed. So one of the things that Scott actually improved last year was his command. And he's always been a guy who gets a ton of strikeouts, gets a ton of ground balls, but he allows walks. That was always one of his bugaboos, like many relievers. But for some reason, somehow, he improved that in 2025. He was in the strike zone much more and didn't allow as many walks. But we know that the season he had an ERA of 4.74, didn't get as many strikeouts as he's accustomed to, just really gave up a ton of home runs, a lot of blown saves as a chance, when he was the closer. And he so far has kept the command this year. He's not allowed to walk, like I said, and he has very good whiff and strikeout numbers, and he's also getting a ton of chase. If you watch Tanner Scott pitch, he's a 2-pitch pitcher. He's going to go fastball upstairs. He's going to go slider downstairs to get a chase. Both of those pitches are getting a lot of chase, and they're getting a lot of whiffs. And he's also, not allowing walks. The stuff looks great, averaging 96.4 miles an hour. He's off to a great start, and if he continues this, he could be a really big left-handed weapon for the Dodgers, and it's great to see him get off to a good start. 167 batting average against on the fastball, 167 batting average against on the slider. The only thing that I've noticed from Scott so far is that he's been off to a reverse splits year. So right-handed hitters are hitting him under 100 at 0.78, but left-handed hitters are hitting him 300. That is something that he's got to get figured out because he's obviously going to face left-handed hitters because he's a left-handed pitcher, and the Dodgers would love to have him, kind of work out as a left-handed specialist, or not really specialist, but, when there's a lefty lane, maybe early in a game, he'd be the perfect guy. If it's some big left-handed hitters on an opposing team, say maybe Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper are due up for the Phillies. That's perfect perfect lane for Tanner Scott. So got to get that figured out. But other than that, he's off to a great start. Hopefully he can continue that. Alex Vesia. I'll be quick with Vesia because it's no surprise. 6.1 innings pitched, a 0 ERA, 6 strikeouts, 3 walks. He's had pre-elite exit velocity numbers, great strikeout numbers, and whiff numbers. He gets a ton of chase, the great hard hit numbers. And, of course, Alex Vesia is always going to have the best induced vertical break fastball in the game, the best IVB. Basically just means he's got the best spin rate fastball in the game. And if you've watched Alex Vesia pitch, every year his fastball velocity has gone down from 95, 94, 93, 92, till right now there are actually times in the game that he is throwing 90 miles an hour. And it does not matter because his fastball has the best spin and it's just the best fastball at staying on plane. It has that rising effect, the best jump, the best carry. Really is just the most electric fastball in the game when it comes to spin. And that allows it to be a very unique pitch, even though he's throwing 91, 92, an 0.71 batting average against on that pitch with a 33.3% whiff rate. That's very good, and I would imagine that his numbers will even get better because he didn't have a ton of strikeouts to start the year. The last couple games, he's got a good. He struck out 3, I think, on Friday night. So a couple more whiffs and strikeouts, and lately have improved the K numbers overall. So yeah, I love Alex Vesia. Would like to see the velocity go up just a tad. I don't want to see Vesia throwing 90 miles an hour, so I would love to see him a little bit more 92, 93, but I'm never really going to worry about him because of that fastball and because of that spin that he gets on it. And so Vesia's been great. And then the last guy, Blake Trinan, who is the elder statesman of them. 5.1 innings pitched, just like Vesia, no earned runs allowed, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks. He's been elite so far with the chase percentage. I would imagine that is because of the very filthy sweeper that he possesses. He has great whiff numbers, and he actually has elite ground ball numbers, which is massive for Blake Trinan, because I told you guys last year, one of the reasons he struggled was because he did not get ground balls at the same clip that he normally does, and there were much more fly balls, which led to much more home runs and more slug, and you throw on top of that he wasn't in the strike zone that much. It was just a disaster. Keeping the ball on the ground is what's going to keep Blake Trinan as a really good reliever. And the strikeouts will continue to come because the sweeper has been great so far. No hits allowed on the sweeper, and he's got a 41% whiff rate on that pitch. So he's off to a great start, and those 3 guys have been great. And once Diaz gets a little bit better and gets his numbers in a better spot, this bullpen has a chance to be very lethal, especially with these 3 guys coming in before Diaz. And then the last couple guys I just wanted to credit for this game 2 against the Rangers. 2 hits from Shohei, a leadoff home run. His OPS is up to 940. That's great. He also homered in game 3. We'll get to that, so maybe Shohei is starting to get on a little bit of a heater and get his numbers in a better spot and basically be the second best hitter in the game like he always will be behind Aaron Judge. And then Teoscar Hernandez, 2 more hits and a home run, OPS up to 858. He's really been getting off to a good start and heating up as of late, so that's great to see. So let's go ahead and get to game 3 of this series. Roki Sasaki taking on Jacob deGrom. Scoring gets underway in the bottom of the first. Shohei Ohtani hits his 5th home run of the year, his 2nd consecutive night with a leadoff home run. This is off of Jacob deGrom. Unfortunately, after that, there would not be a ton of offense because Jacob deGrom absolutely dominated the Dodgers. In the third inning, against Roki Sasaki, Evan Carter, he jumps on a first pitch heater to tie up the game, his second home run of this series. Later on, a Josh Smith single that would make it 2-1 Rangers. Later on in the sixth inning, this is when Sasaki's out of the game. An RBI ground out from Brandon Nimmo to make it 3-1. Dodgers would try to claw away and get back into the game. A base hit from Kyle Tucker, an RBI single, makes it 3-2. But later in the eighth inning, Brandon Nimmo, more insurance, more Brandon Nimmo hits in this inning, in this series. Rangers make it 4-2. After a wild pitch from Will Klein, 5-2 Rangers. The score would hold. The Dodgers would drop their fourth game of the year, and they would lose the final game of the series. Do come away with a series win, and overall was a good series, just like that Blue Jays series earlier this week, but unable to come back and win this game. Roki Sasaki pitched 4 innings. Edgardo Henriquez for 1, Jack Dreyer for 1, Ben Gasparius for 1, who has not pitched great so far this year, and then Will Klein actually pitched 2 innings, and his ERA is 1.17, so that's great. Got to give credit to Jacob deGrom. Wasn't the first time he absolutely shut down a lineup, and it won't be the last. He got an ERA of 2.87 on this year. 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, which was on the first batter of the game, Shohei Ohtani. 3 walks, 9 strikeouts. Had about 15 whiffs in the game. He carved up the Dodgers. Dodgers didn't know what to do with him. And sometimes you get shut down by dominant pitching. Dodgers have asked a lot of the teams that face the Dodgers. Sometimes you just get shut down. So let's go ahead and talk about Roki Sasaki, who, of course, is always the most interesting thing to talk about. So, Roki's final line in this game. 4 innings pitched, so that's not great. 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 walks, which is not good. 6 strikeouts, that is good. And he also had a career high in whiffs. 15 whiffs in the game for Roki Sasaki is the most of his career. I believe the previous career high in whiffs was 9. So he had 6 more whiffs than his career high. That's great. So, once again with Sasaki, I feel like this is just how every Sasaki recap goes. Wasn't able to put it all together for a full start, and it once again leaves a questionable taste in your mouth with Roki Sasaki. But there were positives and there were negatives, just like we continue to say about Sasaki. So the first thing, again, with the positives, the whiffs were finally there from Sasaki. All right. Obviously, the command wasn't there. So 15 whiffs, and like I said, 6 strikeouts, both career highs. But the 5 walks, and he was only in the zone 40% of the time, which is well below league average. Sasaki's first couple starts, when he wasn't getting a ton of whiffs, he was, getting some soft contact, which is good. You can live as a guy who doesn't get a ton of whiffs, and you can live with that, living as a soft contact king, basically. You can be successful at the big league level like that. But when you're a guy who doesn't have pinpoint command and is going to allow walks, you do need to generate whiffs and strikeouts. And this is a perfect example today, because if you watched him pitch in real time, which I advise many of you, if you have never watched Sasaki, or if you just look at the stats and you look at his ERA above 6 and you think, wow, this guy sucks, you need to look at his starts, and it requires some context, because there are things that you need to see. And, if you watch this game and you see the 5 walks, you would think that he pitched horribly, but when you do bring strikeouts and whiffs to the equation, like he did today for the first time really ever, even though he had horrible command, he only allowed 2 earned runs, and he had 5 hits allowed. Like, the 5 walks normally leads to 4, 5, 6 earned runs. 2 earned runs, like, he didn't kill the Dodgers, because when you're able to use whiffs, you can sneak out of some jams, like you saw in the first inning. He allowed a leadoff hit to Brandon Nimmo, then a walk, first and second, nobody out. Corey Seager coming up, middle of the lineup for the Rangers. What does he do? He strikes out Corey Seager, he strikes out Jake Berger, and he strikes out Jock Peterson to get out of trouble. Same thing in the second inning. Allowed a couple of base runners on some walks. He was able to punch his way out of it with a couple strikeouts. Runners were even on third base in that inning, and then a pop-up to get out of it. This is why I continue to feel encouraged with Sasaki, if we can continue to see this, then I'm going to feel very good about Sasaki, because when you can bring the whiffs and you can bring the strikeouts, you can find a way to be a successful pitcher even with having a poor fastball like he has. At least when it comes to giving up hits. He throws hard, but doesn't get a ton of whiffs, although he did a little bit in this game. I'll get to that, but you can live with bad command if you can use strikeouts to kind of finagle your way through the game, to kind of get around. You can get around jams and stuff like that. But when the command is that bad, where you're not in the zone at all, and you're allowing 5 walks, obviously no pitcher can be successful that way. So the velocity was good, 97.1. Again, his velocity has been great so far to start the year. I should just say, consistent. He averages 97.1 on the year. That's the upper echelon in terms of Major League Baseball. So that's good. He throws hard. He now has a better overall whiff percentage, 29.5. That's pretty good. Not a lot of the other numbers are there. The average exit velocity is, though, an average exit velocity of 86. So another piece to the puzzle that he added today. Now, one of the pieces fell off in terms of the command, because in his last couple starts, he didn't have horrible command, especially his first start against the Guardians. But today, it just wasn't there, and but the vice versa is that he brought the Ks, so he was able to work around some of those command issues. So again, like always, it's a work in progress with Roki. I would love to see some sinkers. He threw one in this game that could help him get some early contact, maybe get some ground balls. So it just continues to be a mixed bag, where he just hasn't been able to just full start, put it all together. But if you're, grasping for straws, grasping for positive things, he added the whiffs today. If he can continue to do that, it really helps a lot, So we'll have to just see. We'll have to continue to see. But I do like that, he was able to get whiffs on all 3 pitches today. Normally, it's just the splitter that's getting whiffs. But he got 6 whiffs on the splitter. He got 4 on the fastball. And he got 5 on the slider. So you can live with, a 45% whiff rate on the slider. That's great. 36% whiff rate on your four-seam fastball. You can live with that. 33% on the splitter. His splitter was looking wicked today. I'm probably going to put some videos on my X, but all you got to do is go over to Pitching Ninja, who's a popular X account pitching guy who does a lot of cool overlays and talks about pitchers. He had some wicked splitters today that were getting some gnarly swings and misses. So, as always with him, man, if he's in and around the strike zone, it will lead to swing and miss, and it will lead to strikes. Today was definitely, again, a positive when it comes to the whiffs. If he can continue to stay around this number and get, 15 whiffs around that, in that neighborhood of 15 whiffs a game, it's really going to help when it comes to his overall just run production and run prevention, I should say, to kind of help plug up the command and walk issues. But you got to be in the strike zone more. You can't walk 5 batters in a start. He was at 70-something pitches in the 3rd inning. That's not sustainable. So we'll see what he does. His next start will come next weekend. I keep forgetting who I know the Dodgers play the Mets next, but I forget who they play after that. So that is pretty much it. After that, like I said, the offense was shut down. No Will Smith, no Teoscar in the lineup today. So, it's okay. It happens. The last thing I'll talk about before we wrap up is Kyle Tucker. He is officially off to a slow start. Now, it is still super, super early. I just want to say that. Tucker could go on a heater the next week, and his numbers would look great. So we're still in that super early territory. And I'm not sounding the alarms on Tucker, not at all. I think he's going to be fine. I still think he's going to put up monster numbers for the Dodgers this year. But it is worth noting that he has a 669 OPS. The most notable thing with Tucker is his slugging. The on base for Tucker is there so far. 343 on base is good. He's been walking. It's kind of funny because if you take a look at his chase numbers, they are still good. For some reason, to me, whenever I seem to lock in on his at-bats, I feel like he's been chasing a little bit more. He has had a ton of strikeouts where he's chasing a slider or a changeup in the dirt. That just shows to me that he's pressing a little bit and, just trying to force the production and the numbers. But the reality of the numbers is that he hasn't been chasing, so that's just me. But 14.5% walk rate is good. 22.3% chase rate, that's good. But he has been striking out a little bit more that he's accustomed to. 22.6% K rate is like about league average. So he's normally well above that. So pretty much all he's doing right now is getting on base with the walks. And he's not slugging at all. 316 slugging percentage. That is not nothing like Kyle Tucker's more in the 450 range. So last year he slugged 464. The year before that, 585. Like, his slugging is just not there. I think he only has 2 extra base hits on the year, a double and a home run. That's it. So I think he's going to be fine. I would love to see him break out this week against the Mets. I think he's just got to continue to be patient, and the numbers will come. He's just got to be a little bit better with 2 strikes. I feel like he's been kind of, I don't like that he's been striking out a little bit, but no panic from Tucker. I just feel like I had to just address that he hasn't been playing well to start the year. So that is pretty much it. That pretty much wraps up this series. Overall, it was a good series from the Dodgers. The offense has continued to be pretty good. I didn't even mention Andy Paz in this video, who's been raking. Didn't talk about a lot of the offense so far, or at least, we didn't talk about a lot of the offense in this game, but I think Shohei is starting to really heat up. I love the at-bats I've seen from Teoscar lately, obviously Paez. Freddie Freeman continues to hit the ball hard. Will Smith just quietly, 800 OPS, has been playing great. So the offense is fine, and I think it's going to get even better because the Dodgers have the most wins in baseball right now, the best record, and it feels like they're nowhere near their ceiling of how good they've played. So, I would love to see this week. I would love to see Shohei get on a heater, but really what I want to see next recap, definitely by next weekend, is I want to see Kyle Tucker and the at-bats improve, and I want to see him start to put up some better numbers. So that's pretty much it. Before we wrap up, the Mets will be in town for 3 this upcoming week. Justin Robleski will go Monday against David Peterson. Tuesday will be Nolan McLean against Yoshinobu Yamamoto. That'll be a must-see game. And then Wednesday will be Shohei. The Mets pitcher is not announced yet. So some good pitching matchups this week against the Mets. The Mets are ice cold, lost 5 in a row. They're coming in slow, coming in ice cold to LA. So hopefully the Dodgers can take advantage of that. But that is all I have for you guys. Dodgers take 2 out of 3 from the Rangers. They got the best record in the game. They're playing pretty well. Hopefully it can continue this week against the Mets at home. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Nick Talking Ball on X. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you to recap the Mets and the Dodgers.